With that sound, we begin the special open session to hear public comments before closed session. Roll call.
Councilmember Bonner,
Here.
Councilmember Brown,
Here.
Councilmember Jimenez,
Presente.
Councilmember Zepeda,
Here.
Councilmember Wilson. She'll be participating under AB 2449, just cause she is caring for an ill parent. Councilmember Wilson,
Here.
Vice Mayor Robinson,
Here.
and Mayor Martinez.
Here.
Okay, our next item under closed session. The council will discuss the following item: conference with legal counsel, anticipated litigation, significant exposure to litigation. There are 2 cases, and then we have 1 request to address the council under public comment. Ben Terrio, you'll have 2 minutes.
Thank you. Ben Terrio, President of the Richmond Police Officers Association.
Press the button, Ben.
Hit the button? Yeah, cool.
There you go.
Ben Terrio, President of the Richmond Police Officers Association. Good evening. I'm here tonight to talk about what's happening to officers Remick, Stocking, and Hodges. It's not about policy. It's not about the law. It's about a failure of leadership. These officers have not been disciplined. They have not been terminated. There's been no administrative finding against them, and yet they remain removed from duty indefinitely with no timeline, no resolution, and no justification grounded in any legal requirement. There's no law that requires this. There is no post-regulation that requires this. There's no Department of Justice mandate that requires this. This is a choice. And it is a choice that is harming your police department and exposing this city to unnecessary legal and operational risk. Every officer in this department is watching what you do. They are watching whether their careers can be put on hold indefinitely, not because of findings, not because of discipline, but because of hesitation and inaction. And they're drawing conclusions. They're concluding that this city will not stand behind them. They're concluding that their careers are safer somewhere else. And many are starting to already act on that conclusion. Richmond cannot afford to lose more officers, yet the current course of action is accelerating exactly that outcome. But more importantly, you are the governing body. The city manager does not operate independently of your authority, although the city manager does make employment determinations. These decisions are being made, though, under your leadership, and you have the ability to ask questions, demand answers, and to provide direction. If you do not do anything, you are not bystanders. You are participants. And you have a responsibility to ensure that decisions affecting your police department are lawful, justified, and in the best interest of the city. The continued removal of these officers without resolution is damaging morale, undermining retention, and weakening the operational stability of the Richmond Police Department. The question before you is simple. Are you going to provide some leadership, or are you going to allow this damage to continue? And as hopefully you all know, we have sent in a demand letter from our attorney firm, and we have filed 2, basically tort claims. They're basically a preamble to that.
Thank you.
Please take some action on this issue. Thank you.
If there's anyone joining us online that would like to speak under open forum for closed session, please raise your hand at this time. Okay, that was our last speaker.
All right. With that, I will close the public hearing, and we will retire to closed session. All right, it is now time to begin the special meeting of the Richmond Housing Authority. We'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
This is a special meeting of the Richmond Housing Authority. Commissioner Brown,
Here.
Commissioner Jimenez,
Presente.
Commissioner Zepeda,
Here.
Commissioner Bonner. Commissioner Bonner.
Here, thank you.
Commissioner Wilson is participating remotely under AB 2449, just cause to care for a sick parent. Commissioner Wilson,
Here.
Vice Chair Robinson,
Here.
Chair Martinez,
Here.
and Attending Commissioner Scott is absent. Our next item, statement of conflict of interest. Are there any? Hearing none. Our next item is a report from the Executive Director.
KCRT, can you please bring up the PowerPoint? Good evening, Chair, Commissioners. My name is Antoinette Terrell, Executive Director of Richmond Housing Authority. This evening, I will provide updates on our redevelopment progress at Eastern Village, environmental compliance steps, resident engagement efforts, and capital improvement projects. Next slide, please. We continue to advance the Eastern Village redevelopment in a deliberate, compliance-driven manner. Several foundational agreements are moving forward simultaneously to ensure that we protect public housing assets, maintain HUD eligibility, and align with the city's broader affordable housing priorities. These include the Land Disposition and Development Agreement, or LDDA, the Right of Entry Agreement, pre-development loan documents, environmental review determinations, and structured resident engagement. Next slide, please. The LDDA is the primary legal framework governing redevelopment of Eastern Village. This agreement establishes one-for-one replacement unit requirements, long-term affordability protections, development milestones, and preservation of Richmond Housing Authority's land interests. It ensures that the redevelopment does not diminish public housing capacity, but modernizes and strengthens it. Next slide, please. The right of entry allows the development team to conduct necessary due diligence activities, such as engineering assessments, environmental testing, and site investigations. Next slide, please. We are also advancing pre-development loan documents to structure early-stage funding. These documents, number one, defines eligible use of the ARPA and pre-development funds, establishes repayment terms, protect public resources, and ensures compliance with city and HUD requirements. This structured approach allows us to support necessary planning while maintaining financial safeguards. Next slide, please. Another key component is determining the appropriate environmental review pathway. Staff is coordinating to confirm that a HUD Part 50 environmental review will apply. Under Part 50, HUD retains environmental authority. We're also reviewing the Part 58 pathway, where the city would retain environmental authority. Choosing the correct environmental track is critical. It directly affects funding eligibility, review timelines, and overall project delivery. Our goal is to select the most efficient and compliant pathway to avoid delays and ensure continued federal funding access. Next slide, please. Equally important is resident engagement. We have emphasized two priorities. First, that previous resident feedback must be incorporated into the current planning discussions. Second, that messaging around project timelines and scope must be measured and responsible to avoid creating unrealistic expectations. A coordination meeting with the development team, community engagement consultants, architect, and relocation specialist is scheduled for later this month in preparation for a broader resident meeting anticipated in mid-March. We are committed to a transparent and structured resident engagement process. Next slide, please. Looking ahead, staff will, 1, finalize the environmental review pathway. 2, execute remaining pre-development agreements. 3, continue resident engagement. 4, advance financial structuring for redevelopment. Next slide, please. So in addition to long-term redevelopment planning, we continue to address immediate capital needs. Next slide, please. We've completed the gutter replacement on Block A, which is the block closest to MLK Park at Nystrom, which resolved serious drainage issues that were causing exterior deterioration and potential structural risks. This proactive capital work protects the long-term integrity of the property. We anticipate completing the remaining blocks by the end of fiscal year 26-27. Next slide, please. We replaced sidewalks in front of the maintenance office to remove trip hazards and improve ADA compliance. This improves day-to-day safety for residents and while reducing liability risk. We plan to complete the remaining blocks by the end of fiscal year 2026-27 as part of our phased safety improvements. Next slide, please. And also would just like to note that as of today, we found out that the Contra Costa Housing Authority will be opening up their project-based wait list for Nevin Plaza starting March 2nd, 2026 at 10 a.m. through March 19th, 2026 at 4 p.m. And we will send more information out to the board as well as in the weekly newsletter. Thank you.
Okay, our next item is agenda review. Are there any changes to the special meeting of the Richmond Housing Authorities? Consent calendars to only 2 items. No changes? Okay. Our next item is Housing Authority Open Forum. We have 1 speaker, Cordell Handler. You'll have 2 minutes to address the council.
Commission. So good evening, Chair Martinez, commissioners. For the record, I am Cordell Handler, and I have looked at the consent calendar, and I don't have no objections. So just approve it and get it done.
Right. Our next item is approval of the, Richmond Housing Authority consent calendar. We need a motion.
We need a motion?
Yes.
I'll motion to approve the consent calendar as is.
I second.
Motion by Commissioner Zepeda, second by Commissioner Bonner, or is it Brown? Brown. Okay, thank you. Commissioner Brown?
Yes.
Commissioner Bonner?
Yes.
Commissioner Jimenez?
Yes.
Commissioner Wilson?
Yes.
Commissioner Zepeda?
Yes.
Vice Chair Robinson?
Yes.
Chair Martinez?
Yes.
And Attending Commissioner Scott is absent. The motion passes.
With the passage of the Housing Authority consent calendar, we will now adjourn. Moving on to the regular meeting of the Richmond City Council. Roll call, please.
Okay. Councilmember Bonner?
I'm here.
Councilmember Brown?
Here.
Councilmember Jimenez?
Presente.
Councilmember Zepeda?
Here.
Councilmember Wilson is participating remotely under AB 2449, Just Cause to Care for a Sick Parent. Councilmember Wilson?
Here.
Vice Mayor Robinson?
Here.
And Mayor Martinez?
Here.
Okay. Our next item is Statement of Conflict of Interest. Are there any? Hearing none. Our next item is Agenda Review. And we have a request from Claudia Centrum to remove the following 3 items from the consent calendar. Item V3A, that's the additional loan for capital costs related to the Civic Center Apartments Home Key Project. Item V6A, that's the Richmond Fund for Children and Youth calendar year 2026 through 27 grants. And item V7D, opposing the unlawful United States military intervention against Venezuela. That's all I have. No more changes? Okay. Our next item is a report from the city attorney of final decisions made during closed session.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council. During closed session, no final action was taken on either of the two cases listed under C1. Thank you.
Our next item is a report from the city manager.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council. Nikki Maste filling in for Shasta Curl this evening. As a reminder, all of these items can be found on the city's weekly report or by calling the city manager's office at 510-620-6502. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. Okay, severe weather warning. Don't know if you've seen it today. We had some hail. Please drive cautiously while you are out there, but we are expecting rain for the remainder of this week. We also have 2 fully stocked sandbag stations for the residents at the courtyard at the entrance on Harbor Way near Richmond Greenway, and at 5100 Hartnett Avenue, the Bayview Library parking lot. Signs are also posted in known flooding areas and hotspots throughout the city, and public works crews are on standby and ready to respond as needed. Next slide, please. Okay, free mobile immigration legal services. Stand Together Contra Costa County, in partnership with Supervisor John Joya, is welcoming the new mobile legal clinic, offering free immigration legal services to District 1 residents. The clinic will take place on Wednesday, February 18th from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. Residents must register in advance to book a consultation, and the location will be provided after registration. Participants are encouraged to bring all relevant documents. To register, visit the website or scan the QR code on screen. For more information, contact info@standtogethercontracosta.org. Next slide, please. Join city staff and consultants on Thursday, February 19th at 7 p.m. at the Parchester Community Center for a community meeting regarding the Parchester Village Infrastructure Master Plan. The meeting will provide the opportunity to discuss and learn about flooding, drainage, and safety assessments. Come out and share your input regarding your experiences and priorities. For more information, contact Nina Greenwood at nina@davisimpact.com. Next slide, please. Snow day update. If you hadn't heard, we have a new snow day. It is February 20th, 2026 at 10 a.m. Please bring your saucers and your snow gear and be ready to come out and enjoy the snow. For more information, call Recreation at 510-620-6793. The location is at Nickel Park, 3230 McDonald Avenue. Next slide, please. The City of Richmond is moving forward with plans for a new community center and exciting upgrades to MLK Junior Park, and we want to hear from you. Your feedback will help shape what these spaces look like, what programs they offer, and how they serve our families, youth, and neighborhoods for years to come. The next community outreach event is February 25th, 2026 at 6 p.m. You can RSVP to attend by scanning the QR code on screen. For more information, call 510-231-3008. Next slide, please. Thank you. And scan the QR code for the city manager's weekly report.
Okay, our next item is open forum for public comment. An open forum is an opportunity to address the council on items that remain on the consent calendar or items that are not on the agenda. And as a reminder, there are 3 items that were removed from the consent calendar, and if you would like to speak on those items, please wait until they're called. They're item V3A, V6A, and V7D. During open forum, dialogue between the council and the speaker is prohibited. Tonight, we have 22 in-person speakers. Anyone joining us online that wishes to address the council under open forum, please raise your hand at this time. We'll start with the in-person speakers, and then we'll move on to the online speakers. When your name is called, please come forward and line up behind the speaker's podium. When you're called to address the council, state your name and your city of residence is optional. Please terminate your address to the council when your time expires. Each speaker shall be allowed up to 2 minutes to address the council. City of Richmond welcomes your comments and requests that you present your remarks in a respectful and appropriate manner within the established 2-minute time limit. First 10 speakers are Cordell Handler, Andrea McKelvey, Louis McCray, Dulcia Arnold, Josetta Gillibo, Armand Johnson Jr., Toma H. Evans, John McKinley, Claudia Citron, and Bruce Brubaker. Cordell?
Thank you. So, good evening, Mayor Martinez, council. For the record, I am Cordell Handler, and I have some gifts for you all. But before I begin that, I do want to thank the mayor's office for hosting the Contra Costa Mayor's Conference. Actually, technically, it was my idea to have it at the golf course because I like to see the view of the Bay Area. So I deserve credit for that one. So that's one. And then second is what I just presented to you all is it's a classification study. Because if you remember a few years back, the city has worked with a consultant to do the class and comp study because I've done my own analysis. I've looked at other jurisdictions with similar positions, and I'm thinking to myself, that money that we got from Chevron, that should be allocated to fund a consultant to redo the class and comp study because other cities pay their employees more money. And so if you want the employees to stay in Richmond, we have to do a better class and comp study. So I am just putting it as a reminder. And so I'm thinking to myself, think ahead because we want our city employees to stay in Richmond. And if we wanted to do that, we need to do a fully dialogue of a classic comp study. So I'll just leave it at that.
Andrea McKelvey?
Hi, my name is Andrea McKelvey. I'm coming to speak about the Castro Street encampment audit. I lost a lot of stuff from these people, and my storage, they haven't paid for a lot of items and stuff that they were supposed to pay for with the funding, and I received none of it, and I'm behind on a lot of stuff due to them seeing that they did pay for everything, and they didn't. And so I was wondering, what can we do about that? Thank you.
Louis McCray?
Yeah, my name is Louis McCray. I'm from North Richmond. I'm speaking on the Castro encampment audit also. Basically, what she said is basically what I got to say. And just wondering why we ain't got nobody to turn to and we still homeless.
Dulcia Arnold? Dulcia Arnold? Okay. Josetta Gillibo?
I was speaking on the encampment. I was one of the residents.
Speaking to Mike.
Huh?
Speaking to Mike.
I was a resident at the encampment, and I'm back homeless again because they didn't renew my lease, and they put me out my apartment. So now I'm back in the rain. And they didn't use our fund. They misused our funding. That's it.
Mr. Mayor, we do have Lena Velasco, our Community Development Director. If anyone has any questions about the homeless encampment, she is actually back out in the lobby with the first 2 speakers, and this current speaker can go join them.
Armand Johnson Jr.? Armand Johnson Jr.? No? Okay. Toma H. Evans? John McKelvey? John McKinney?
Good evening, Mayor and City Council members. My name is John McKinney. and I'm speaking on behalf of the Richmond Police Officers Association and the officers who serve the city every day. I'm here tonight for two very simple reasons. First, to again ask this council to support fair, competitive, and marketable contract for Richmond police officers. Second, to demand accountability from City Manager Curl to return officers Remick, Stocking, and Hodges to work immediately. Richmond is already in a staffing crisis. Officers are leaving, retirements are accelerating, and recruiting has become increasingly difficult. Every officer in the city is watching how this contract is handled, and they are watching how 3 officers are still not back to duty, and there's no timeline to bring them back. There's no resolution, and there's no explanation that meets the basic standards of fairness. This is not how functional organizations operate. The failure to bring these officers back is not only unjust, it creates real legal exposure for the city of Richmond. Prolonged administrative removals without resolution increase liability, undermine due process, and send a chilling message to the remaining workforce. Officers see this and they leave. Potential recruits see this and they never apply. A fair contract and basic accountability are not radical demands. They are the bare minimum required to maintain public safety and organizational stability. City Manager Curl was hired to manage, to make decisions, to resolve issues, and to lead. Kicking the can down the road while officers sit at home and staffing collapses is not leadership, it's avoidance. Council members, you cannot say you care about public safety while allowing this to continue. Support a marketable contract and demand that City Manager Curl...
Your time has expired.
Thank you.
Claudia Citron.
So on Monday nights in San Francisco, 3 officers were decided by a jury that they're innocent, and I want to call out those officers. This was a 4-year trial. This was Tom Tran, he still works with RPD, Cedric Tagora, Mark Hall. They moved on because it was too long for them, and the public discourse was just too acrimonious and too poisonous. Officer Eric Smith also was by a Contra Costa jury called not guilty on any charges. He also left. You lost 4 officers, and I want to acknowledge that these officers were by a jury not considered guilty. Secondly, I want to also point out that I demand that the council sticks to council procedures. If there's a public comment allowed to any topic, I want to have the right to speak. I don't tolerate that any council member says that voting is occurring. Last time there was one issue where there was a big discussion until I was able to speak. This is government corruption in the simplest thing. So that's all I have to say. I just want to acknowledge the 4 officers who went through the burden of 4-year trial just to be called innocent. This needs to change in the city. And these officers behind here asking for the officers to being reinstated, they have a reason. And I'm asking all of you who have connections to Richmond Side or the other publications who write opinion pieces, calling them informative, in-depth reporting, to please adjust their reporting. If it's opinion, fine, say it's opinion. If it's information, fine, be informative and unbiased. That's all I have to say. I yield my time.
Our next speaker is Bruce Brubaker. Will the following individuals please come forward, line up behind the speaker's podium? DeCarlos Scott, Nate Lonzo, Caius Fuller, Robert Lopez, Ben Terrio, Colton Stocking, Don Nelson, Andy Domenici, sorry, Savannah Stewart, Michael Paggeline, Harry Weiner, and Yvette Blandon. Bruce Brubaker.
Hello, Mr. Mayor and City Council. I am Bruce Brubaker. I'm a Richmond resident and the Vice Chair of the Planning Commission here. I'm here to ask Council for redoubled efforts to attract and appoint additional members of the Planning Commission. As you know, the Planning Commission is a decision-making body on issues of development and land use in the city. We're having difficulty forming a quorum, and it is making it hard to conduct business at the Planning Commission. I'm very happy to see you have an appointment in this agenda tonight for a new commissioner, but we need a couple more commissioners. So I would like to request that the mayor and council members appoint two more, or seek to appoint two more commissioners to help us do our business. In addition, we could use more geographic diversity on the commission, as there are, of 3 of the 4 active commissioners are from the Richmond area. So and I would also appeal to those watching the meeting tonight and others that are in attendance that the commission is seeking members, and everyone should consider joining the Planning Commission as we are seeking good people. Thank you.
Carlos Scott. No. Nate Lonzo.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. My name is Nate Lonzo, and I'm speaking on behalf of the Richmond Police Officers Association and the officers who serve this city every day. I'm here tonight for 2 simple reasons. First, to again ask this council to support a fair, competitive, and marketable contract for Richmond police officers. Second, to demand accountability from City Manager Curl to return officers Remick, Stocking, and Hodges to work immediately. Richmond is already in a staffing crisis. Officers are leaving, retirements are accelerating, and recruiting has become increasingly difficult. Every officer in this city is watching how this contract is handled, and they are watching how 3 officers can be kept off duty indefinitely with no timeline, no resolution, and no explanation that meet basic standards of fairness. This is not how functional organizations operate. The failure to bring these officers back is not only unjust, it creates real legal exposure for the city of Richmond. Prolonged administrative removals without resolution increase liability, undermine due process, and send a chilling message to the remaining workforce. Officers see this and they leave. Potential recruits see this and they never apply. A fair contract and basic accountability are not radical demands. They are the bare minimum required to maintain public safety and organizational stability. Council members, you cannot say you care about public safety while you allow this to continue. Support a marketable contract, demand the city manager do her job, and bring back officers Remick, Stocking, and Hodges. Thank you.
The next speaker is Chase Fuller.
Yes, that's correct. Thank you. Good evening, Mayor and council members. My name is Chase Fuller, and I'm speaking on behalf of the Richmond Police Officers Association and the officers who serve this city every day. I'm here tonight for 2 simple reasons. First, to again ask this council to support a fair, competitive, and marketable contract for the Richmond police officers. Secondly, to demand accountability from City Manager Curl to return Officer Remick, Officer Stocking, and Officer Hodges to work immediately. Richmond is already in a staffing crisis. Officers are leaving, retirements are increasingly and accelerating, and recruiting has become increasingly difficult. Every officer in the city is watching how this contract is handled and how they are watching how 3 officers can be kept off duty indefinitely with no timeline, no resolution, and no explanation that meets basic standards of fairness. This is not how functional organizations operate. The failure to bring these officers back is not only unjust, it creates real legal exposure for the city of Richmond. Prolonged administrative removals without resolution increase liability, undermine due process, and send a chilling message to the remaining workforce. Officers see this and they leave. Potential recruits see this and they never apply. A fair contract and basic accountability are not radical demands. They are the bare minimum required to maintain a public safety and organizational stability. City Manager Curl was hired to manage, to make decisions, to resolve issues, and to lead. Kicking the can down the road while officers sit at home and staffing collapses is not leadership. It's avoidance. Council members, you cannot say you care about public safety while allowing this to continue. Support a marketable contract, demand that the city manager do her job, and bring back Officer Remick, Stocking, and Hodges back to work now. Thank you. I yield my time.
Roberto Lopez.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. My name is Roberto Lopez. I'm speaking on behalf of the Richmond Police Officers Association and the officers who serve the city every day. I'm here tonight for two simple reasons. First, to ask the council members support a fair, competitive, and marketable contract for Richmond police officers. Second, to demand accountability from City Manager Curl to return Officer Remick, Stocking, and Hodges to work immediately. Richmond is already in a staffing crisis. Officers are leaving, retirements are accelerating, and recruiting has become increasingly difficult. Every officer in the city is watching how this contract is handled, and they are watching how 3 officers can be kept off duty indefinitely with no timeline, no resolution, and no explanation that meet basic standards of fairness. This is not how a functional organization operates. The failure to bring these officers back is not only unjust, it creates real legal exposure for the city of Richmond. Prolonged administrative removals without resolution increase liability, undermine due process, and send a chilling message to the remaining workforce. Officers see this and they leave. Potential recruits see this and they never apply. A fair contract and basic accountability are not radical demands. They are the bare minimum required to maintain public safety and organizational stability. City Manager Curl was hired to make decisions, to resolve issues, and to lead. Kicking the can down the road while officers sit at home, staffing collapses. It's not leadership, it's avoidance. City council members, you cannot say you care about public safety while allowing this to continue. Support a marketable contract, demand that the city manager do her job, and then bring back Officer Remick, Stocking, and Hodges back to work. Thank you for your time.
Ben Terrio.
Ben Terrio, President of the Richmond Police Officers Association. I want to start by pointing something out that everyone in this room can see. The city manager is not here. She's not sitting in front of the public. She's not standing here behind her decisions, and she's not answering for the damage that she's continually causing to this police department. Instead, she's hiding on Zoom. That alone tells you everything you need to know. Because what is happening right now is not about facts, it's not about due process, it's about a city manager who is unwilling or unable to make a decision, and instead chooses to leave officers in limbo, officers are sitting back here, indefinitely while the city assumes greater legal risk every single day. As I spoke earlier, there are tort claims inbound and demand letters that have already been sent to the city attorney's office. They know what the legal justification is and what it's not. Officer Remick and Detective Hodges and Officer Stocking have been sidelined without resolution, without closure, without justification that would withstand scrutiny anywhere else in this county or anywhere else in this state. And while she hides behind delay and distance, the consequences fall on the officers who protect this city and on you, the council members responsible for oversight. Let me be clear, the city manager serves at the pleasure of this council. She does not operate independently, and when she fails to lead, when she refuses to act, and when she exposes the city to growing liability and weakens this police department, it's your responsibility to intervene. Right now, every officer in Richmond is watching. They're watching to see what this city will stand behind them or not, or abandon them. They're watching to see whether leadership actually exists here. This is not sustainable. This is not defensible, and it is not acceptable. It's time for this council to step in, restore some type of accountability, and put an end to this failure of leadership. These folks need to come back to work. It's just that simple. You have an attorney. Ask your attorney. Ask an outside counsel. They're going to tell you the same thing. It's not a mystery. Bring them back to work and bring them back now. Thank you.
Colton Stocking. Colton Stocking.
Good
Good evening, Mayor and City Council members. My name is Colton Stocking. I'm speaking on behalf of the Richmond Police Officers Association and the officers who serve this city every day. I'm here tonight for two very simple reasons. First, to again ask this council to support a fair, competitive, and marketable contract for the Richmond police officers. Secondly, to demand accountability from City Manager Curl to return Officer Remick, Detective Hodges, and myself to work immediately. Richmond is already in a staffing crisis. Officers are leaving, retirements are accelerating, and recruiting has become increasingly difficult. Every officer in this city is watching how this contract is handled, and they are watching how 3 officers can be kept off duty indefinitely with no timeline, no resolution, and no explanation that meets basic standards of fairness. This is not how functional organizations operate. The failure to bring these officers back is not only unjust, but creates legal exposure for the city of Richmond. Prolonged administrative removals without resolution increase liability, undermine due process, and send a chilling message to the remaining workforce. Officers see this and they leave. Potential recruits see this and they never apply. A fair contract and basic accountability are not radical demands. They are the bare minimum required to maintain public safety and organizational stability. City Manager Curl was hired to manage, to make decisions, to resolve issues, and to lead. Kicking the can down the road while officers sit at home and staffing collapses is not leadership, it is avoidance. Council members, you cannot say you care about public safety while allowing this to continue. Support a marketable contract and demand that the city manager do her job. Also bring back Officer Remick, myself, and Detective Hodges back to work immediately. Thank you.
Don Nelson. Don Nelson.
Good evening, Mayor, Council. I'm Don Nelson, Vice President of the Richmond Police Officers Association. 10 years ago, I was in the audience when Attorney General Loretta Lynch visited Richmond, specifically the Richmond Police Department, to laud us for our efforts in community policing, engagement, and progressive police work. It was the Obama administration that saw the excellent work we did here and pointed us out for those efforts. A few years later, we continued to go without a contract, without a raise, which prompted several members to start to leave due to low wages. Then COVID hit. The Fund the Police movement happened, and it was a crippling blow to the police department. We need a fair contract. We need a contract that's going to bring us up to par with the other cities on our survey. We're not there. And we lose good applicants because of that. And then you throw on top the fact that officers perform well, admirably, and heroically in the performance of their duties, and they're held in limbo and purgatory because of fear-based leadership that doesn't hold with the bounds of any legal authority or any legal justification anywhere else within the state. We need a fair contract. We need to bring Detective Hodges back to work, Officer Remick back to work, and Officer Colton Stocking back to work immediately. Thank you.
Our next speaker, Andy Domenici, followed by Savannah Stewart. Andy Domenici.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council member. My name is Andy Domenici, and I'm speaking on behalf of the Richmond Police Officers Association and the officers who serve this city every day. I'm here tonight for two simple reasons. First, to again ask this council to support a fair, competitive, marketable contract for the Richmond Police Officers Association. Second, to demand accountability from the city. Manager Curl to return Officer Remick, Stocky, and Hodges to work immediately. Richmond is already in a staffing crisis. Officers are leaving. Retirements are accelerating. I can go in 3 months. Been here over 25 years. And recruiting has been increasingly difficult. Every officer in the city is watching how this contract is handled and they are watching how 3 officers can be kept off duty with no timeline, no resolution, with no explanation that meets basic standard of fairness. This is not how functional organizations operate. The failure to bring back officers is not only unjust to create real legal exposure for the city of Richmond. Prolonged administration removals without resolution increase liability, undermine due process, and send chilling messages to the remaining workforce. Officers see this and they leave, potential recruits. Some won't ever apply. A fair contract and basic accountability are not radical demands. They are bare minimum requirements to maintain public safety and organizational stability. City Manager Curl was hired to manage, to make decisions, to resolve issues, and to lead. Kicking the can down the road while officers sit at home, staffing collapses is not leadership, it's avoidance. Council members, you cannot say you care about public safety while allowing this to continue. Support a marketable contract. Demand the city manager to do her job. And bring back officers Remick, Stocking, and Hodges back to work. Thank you.
Savannah Stewart.
Good evening, Mayor and members of the City Council. My name is Savannah Stewart. I'm a member of the Richmond Police Officers Association. I'm here to speak about the recent officer-involved shootings. First, I want to acknowledge that these incidents are tragedies. Families and friends have lost loved ones, and regardless of the circumstances, that kind of loss brings a pain that words cannot fully express. My heart goes out to everyone who is grieving. These events are also deeply impactful for the officers involved. Often, we don't speak about that side of these incidents. Officers who are involved are frequently forgotten in the broader conversation. Yet, these events affect our families, our hearts, and our overall well-being in profound ways. I want to emphasize that there are multiple layers of review and accountability in every use of force incident, including officer-involved shootings. If an officer violates the law or department policy, they will be held accountable. I have seen that accountability firsthand. Furthermore, if I believe that these officers involved in recent incidents have violated someone's rights, the law, or department policy, I would not be standing here tonight. I have served as an officer in the city for nearly 16 years. In that time, I have never seen or heard of an officer being prevented from returning to full duty when there was no violation of the law, department policy, and no excessive force was used. I am simply asking the city to follow its established policies and procedures regarding these incidents. I also ask that you trust our chief and experts tasked with conducting these reviews. Due process and accountability are not in conflict. They work hand in hand when we allow established policies to run their course. All of us who have taken an oath of office are held to a higher standard. I respectfully ask that you set aside politics and do what is right by allowing these officers who operated within the guidelines and policy to return to work and continue serving the citizens of this community. Thank you for your time.
Michael Pagaline.
Good evening, Mayor, City Council members. My name is Michael Pagaline, and I'm speaking tonight as a member of the Richmond Police Officers Association. I stand here tonight for my brothers, Officers Remick, Stocking, and Hodges. They were all involved in a justified shooting. They've been cleared by evaluations, remain in good standing, and yet they are still not being allowed back to work. That is not policy, it's politics, and every officer in Richmond sees it. If you can do your job, follow the law, and still be sidelined for political reasons, then no officer in this city is safe from unfair treatment. We are demanding that these officers be returned to duty immediately. Richmond cannot afford to punish officers for doing their jobs lawfully. Thank you.
Harry Weiner. Harry Weiner.
I'm not here to speak on the matter that's been before us for the last bit. I'm here to talk about something completely different. Mayor and Council, my name's Harry Weiner, and I live in Far East Richmond. I appreciate that many on the Council are joining the Mayor and studying about Jewish people. Just a few facts about Jews to add to your study. Standing against the mass slaughter of innocent children is Jewish. Jews are against any genocide. Never again. There is such a thing as American Jews being solely loyal to America as opposed to a foreign nation. What this is called by morally stunted people should be ignored. Thank you very much.
Our last in-person speaker is Yvette of Landon.
Buenas noches, honorable alcalde y concejales. Mi nombre es Ivette Blandón. Estoy aquí porque el día 11 de agosto del año 2025, el sistema de grúas que usa la ciudad o no sé qué departamento removió mi carro porque estaba mal estacionado. El problema no es que lo hayan removido, el problema es que el carro me lo desbarataron en exactamente estando de responsable la grúa, que es el que levanta el carro, en su aparcamiento. Me violaron las puertas del vehículo y me robaron todas las cosas que tenía dentro. Yo tengo un complaint que hice en la ciudad con la aseguranza, ya hice todo los requisitos que tengo que hacer. Y aquí tengo también la foto del vehículo del antes, el después, y además de eso, el reporte del policía que utilizaron cuando se movieron mi vehículo. Hoy estoy aquí para solicitarle que por favor me ayude en no me ayude, sino que vigile bien este caso porque la aseguranza está tratando el caso como algo de mal parqueo y no es eso. Yo estoy aquí porque mi vehículo fue violado, robado y desmantelado. ¿Le puedo entregar los documentos?
That was our last in-person speaker.
The online speakers, we have 6 speakers. They are Tarnell Abbott, Elsa, Daniel S., Jay Malari, Isabella, and Sarah C. When your name is called, please be prepared to unmute yourself and please state your full name for the record. Tarnell Abbott, you may begin.
Hi, am I unmuted now?
Yes.
Thank you. Tarnell Abbott, 35-year plus whatever, veteran, not veteran, resident of the city of Richmond. I am chair of the Richmond Regla Friendship Committee. Regla is our sister city in Cuba. And I want to read something and I want people to get active. And this is from letcubalive.info. Letcubalive.info. The president is trying to induce a famine in Cuba. Mass starvation and human suffering in Cuba is the goal of Trump's latest emergency executive order preventing Cuba, an island nation, from importing oil or any energy sources needed to survive. It is a cynical and crude ploy to distract public opinion from the issues at home that are eliciting mass public dissent. And as we've seen with Venezuela, it is a precursor to an illegal military attack. Millions of people in the U.S. and around the world reject this inhumane act against the people of Cuba. It's not a policy of national security. It's a deliberate act of economic warfare aimed at strangling an entire population. This is collective punishment, people. If you want to get involved and do something about this, you can reach me through Trina Jackson Lincoln, who is the staff liaison for the Richmond Regla Friendship Committee and part of the city staff who supports the city the city council. You can also go to letcubalive.info.
Thank you. Your time has expired. Our next speaker is Elsa. Elsa, you may begin.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Good. Is this the right time to talk about Venezuela?
No, that item has been removed from the consent calendar and you will need to raise your hand at that time.
Thank you.
You're welcome. The next speaker is Daniel S. Daniel, you may begin.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, my name is Daniel Sanchez. I'm speaking on behalf of the Richmond Police Officers Association that I've been a member for 27 years. One, I urge you as a city council and city manager to present a competitive, and I repeat, competitive contract for the city of Richmond. It's going to be needed to stop the exodus of officers and the hardship of finding officers to join the Richmond Police Department. Secondly, the officers who you have been unjustly and unlawfully punishing by keeping them out of work and making them suffer, them and their family, needs to stop. They need to be returned to full duty so that they can continue with their career without being hampered by this punishment that the city has bestowed on them for doing their job. Number three, I want to talk about some of the public postings that members of the city council have put out there publicly that have been filled with basically ignorant propaganda, political propaganda that does nothing but fan the flames of hatred and division within its community and its police department. This goes completely against what the city of Richmond and its police department need to survive and its community. It's a shame that the city council and members of the city council are truly actively trying to divide and prevent its police department and its community from having unity. Disgraceful. I hope that you understand that this needs to stop, that these officers need to be returned, and that you need to pay the officers a salary to keep them from happening and leaving. I want you to know that in 27 years, the city has always put forward their effort to join in their community, to build those relationships. And over the last 27 years that I've been here, I can tell you that your actions, not only with how you're treating these officers, but the rhetoric that's been out there publicly has done nothing but destroy that and has really brought back those efforts that this department has really gained. And lastly, I want to let you know, as a 20-year veteran, I'm currently in the process of being employed by another agency as I am leaving.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Jay Malari. Jay, you may begin.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
My name is Jason Malari, and I'm speaking on behalf of the Richmond Police Officers Association and the officers who serve the city every day. I'm speaking tonight for two simple reasons. First, once again, ask the city council to support a fair, competitive, and marketable contract for the officers of the Richmond Police Department. Second, to demand accountability from City Manager Curl to return Officers Remick, Officer Stocking, and Detective Hodges to work immediately. Since I started my career here in the city of Richmond, the Richmond Police Department has faced staffing crises and challenges. The contract situation and the treatment of 3 officers and how they can be kept off duty to serve the citizens of this city indefinitely has caught my attention, as well as my colleagues. Officers are seeking departments and cities that recognize that public safety is paramount, a necessity, not just an option or criteria simply to be met. This has compelled officers to hasten plans of retirement. Potential recruits look elsewhere, which collectively further exacerbates our staffing issues. City Manager Curl was hired to manage and to resolve issues, not to incessantly avoid times of leadership. Mayor, council members, I implore you to support a marketable contract and demand the city manager to do her job and bring Officers Remick, Officer Stocking, and Detective Hodges back to work now. Thank you. I yield my time.
Thank you. The next speaker is Isabella. Isabella, you may begin.
Good evening, City Council and City Manager. My name is Isabella, and I am the widow of a police officer. I'm speaking not just as a grieving wife and mother, but as someone who has lived the consequences of decisions made by people like you. My husband died from exhaustion driving home from work after years of mandatory overtime. My children lost their father. I lost my partner and my best friend. His death didn't have to happen. For several years now, Richmond has made choices. You defunded your police department, you've destroyed morale, you've publicly made false damaging statements about your officers, and you've even launched investigations targeting officers whose rights were violated instead of those responsible for reckless leaks that put those officers and their families in danger. And right now, 3 officers sit on administrative leave in violation of established case law and historical practice, while your department hemorrhages officers. Every one of those decisions has a human cost. You have created a staffing crisis so severe that your officers are worked to exhaustion. That is a life and death issue, and my family is living proof. Think about the little girl who will never have her father walk her down the aisle, the son who will never get that proud hug after his first big win. Those moments are gone from my family. But you have the power today to stop taking them from somebody else's children. Stop playing politics with people's lives. Do right by your officers and community and return those 3 officers to active duty. Fully fund your police department and pass their contracts. And please treat your officers with the dignity and respect they have earned. The next family that loses somebody because of your actions, that is on your hands, not theirs, yours. Thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker is Sarah Cantor. Sarah, you may begin. Sarah Cantor, you may begin.
Hi, thank you. My name is Sarah Cantor. I'm a resident of Richmond. I am calling in to thank the city manager for her leadership in making sure that officers who have not yet been cleared by the DOJ don't return to the force. I think that it is a strong show of leadership and accountability to make sure that we're not bringing officers back into the field when there is still an open question as to whether excessive force was used. Additionally, I support a fair contract for all unions. I don't support a contract that uplifts one union over others significantly. And I really feel for the officers who are having to work mandatory overtime. I think that that is unjust. As I have said many times over the years, I think that it is past time for us to recognize that the recruitment issues are not going to change suddenly, and we need to change the structure of the department and the minimum staffing requirements to be able to operate with the force that we have, rather, and so not making people do significant mandatory overtime. And I really feel for the woman who just shared about her husband's death. I agree that that didn't have to happen, and the fact that we have based our staffing structure on the assumption that we'll be able to maintain a force size that we have not been able to maintain for years despite significant recruitment efforts, I think is an issue. Thank you.
Thank you. And that was our last public speaker.
Our next item is approval of the consent calendar. For the record, item V3A, additional loan for capital costs related to the Civic Center Apartments Home Key Project. Item V6A, Richmond Fund for Children and Youth Calendar Year 2026 through 2027 grants. And item V7D, opposing an unlawful United States military intervention against Venezuela. Those items were removed from the consent calendar and will not be included in this vote.
We need a motion?
Yes.
I move the consent calendar.
A second.
Item moved by Councilmember Jimenez and seconded by Vice Mayor Robinson.
Councilmember Brown?
Yes.
Councilmember Bonner?
Yes.
Councilmember Jimenez?
Yes.
Councilmember Wilson?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Robinson?
Yes.
Councilmember Zepeda?
Yes.
And Mayor Martinez.
Yes.
The vote is unanimous. Our next item is item V3A. And that is to adopt a resolution increasing the city loan amount from 8.3 million to up to 10.3 million to 4 million to 425 Civic Center Plaza, Civic Center LP for the Civic Center Apartment Project, which will convert an existing motel into a 49-unit permanent supportive housing development for the chronically homeless. We have one speaker online. Okay.
Good evening, Mayor, council members. Lena Velasco, Director of Community Development. If I can have KCRT please bring up the presentation. And I'm joined this evening, Jesus Morales, Housing Manager, is on Zoom, as well as Eric Swakin from Hillman Consulting, who has been acting as the city's owner's rep as we review invoices, construction, and management of the project. In addition, we also have Henry Baca and Marina Rios from Novin Development, who is also part of the partnership that the city is doing this project with. Next slide. So the recommended action is to adopt a resolution which would increase the city's loan for this project from 8.3 to 10.3 million. The loan would go to 425 Civic Center Limited Partnership, which is comprised of Trinity Center Wanna Creek, Novin Development Corporation, and NDC Contra Costa LLC. The project is a 49-unit permanent supportive housing development that will serve the chronically homeless population. Next slide. And so just a brief summary of the project. The city has acquired a motel with the intent to convert it into permanent supportive housing. It would be 48 studio units, which would have on-site services that would be provided by abode services, and there would be one bedroom manager's unit on site. We did complete a property condition report back in June 2023 as part of our application to Home Key Grant, which provided $14.5 million towards this project. The City Council approved deal structure includes that the city acquired the property from Journey Hospitality. We paid $6.22 million based on an appraisal for the fair market value. In addition, the city provided an $8.3 million loan. A portion of the funding would go towards capital, which is the rehabilitation, and then a portion is being reserved for operations, for on-site services, as well as paying down some of the rent for early occupants. And with the 8.3 million, the city was able to secure an additional 14.5 million, which has supported the project. The city is the landowner, and we're doing a ground lease with 425 Civic Center LP for $1 a year for 55 years from occupancy. Next slide. So just in terms of the project status, is we have received the Home Key Grant. So we received the total 14.5 million. A portion of it has already gone to fund the acquisition, and we've been spending down the grant funds. Novin Development was also able to secure an almost $1 million grant from Contra Costa, which is also used to fund the rehabilitation. The city closed on the acquisition as well as the ground lease on April 30th, 2025, and we started demolition activities in May of 25. We did have to seek an extension to our milestone for Home Key, which is that we were supposed to complete the construction in February of 2026, but due to unanticipated building conditions, we sought an extension which has been granted to June 30th of 2026. Next slide. So here's just some updates in terms of our grant milestones. So our capital expenditure, which is all the funds that are reserved for the rehabilitation, have to be expended by June 30th of 2026. And in addition, the rehabilitation will also be complete by June 30th of 2026. And we anticipate having full occupancy by June 30th of 2026. That's our deadline. Obviously, if we could achieve full occupancy before that, that's our goal. Next slide. Okay, so here I'm going to pass it over to Eric, who's going to cover an update on the rehabilitation.
Hey, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Eric Swaycon with Hillman Development Advisors. If you could keep up that presentation, it would be great. So as the construction proceeded, a number of items were identified during the construction process that posed health and life safety issues that needed to be addressed throughout the project. So what was identified, if you move forward to the next slide, there were a number of issues, including mold, asbestos, and deteriorated wall conditions that required replacement. Next slide. Next slide. So what we've done is we've identified a number of hard costs and soft costs to complete the project from this point forward. There's a total of 18 change order requests to bring the project to fruition, along with 2 identified soft cost numbers. Those amount to a rough $2.5 million in additional funding. The developers participating by crediting roughly $550,000 to bring the total request down to $2 million. The bulk of the change orders that are being requested are for items such as replacement of the rear wall of the entire facility that was unwaterproofed and deteriorated, so it needed to be replaced. All structure and stucco was replaced. Replacement of the all tenant unit showers is a large line item there, as there was found mold behind those units. So all tile and structure are being replaced there. Next slide. I think Lena's going to take back over here.
Okay, I'm going to pick up here. So we just wanted to provide the council a summary of the total costs per unit, and this includes the state home key funds. As I noted earlier, it's a total of $14.5 million. Approximately $12 million of that was towards the capital costs, which included the acquisition. And then there's another $2.4 million, approximately $2.4 million that will be used for operating services. And that is anticipated to be spread out over a 5 to 7 year period. The city of Richmond, and it's with the 8.3, we were approximately at 3.7 towards capital. With the additional $2 million that we're requesting this evening, it would increase it to 5.7 million total, which is approximately 117,000 per unit. And the remaining city funds will be used towards operations. And then the county put money in for capital, which totaled approximately a little bit over 20,000. So that puts the total capital cost per unit is $384,426, and then leaves approximately $142,000 per unit for operating expenses over the next 7 years. Next slide. And so what I wanted to provide here is, we've been looking at what the cost of producing an affordable unit is. This is a study based on tax credit applications for low-income housing tax credits. So on average in Contra Costa, a new unit would cost $798,000 to produce. So we are significantly below that, and then the time that it takes to produce a rehabbed or a converted unit is a lot quicker than new construction. So we just wanted to provide that comparison. It's alarming how quickly and how expensive a new unit is to produce. So next slide. And we just wanted to note that the homelessness strategic plan that was adopted by the council in May of 2023 identified goals of creating more permanent supportive housing opportunities, specifically targeting the unhoused population, which would help address our unsheltered homelessness within the city. So this project helps implement that and will hopefully bring new units online by this summer. Next slide. And so here's our recommendation, is that the City Council would allocate an additional $2 million. So this is a loan, which would be paid back from now I'm forgetting the name. It's from revenues that are generated for the project once all costs are covered. And so this would be annually, and we do have in our agreements with the operator that we will split the residual receipts. That's the word I was looking for, so thank you. Apologize for that. And so we're happy to answer any specific questions that the council may have.
Before we allow council to ask questions, do we have any public speakers?
We have one speaker, and that speaker's online.
The speaker is with the device name iPhone. Please state your name for the record and you may begin.
Hi. So the only reason I brought this topic for discussion is because I thought this presentation was valuable, and it should not have been in the consent calendar. I just want to say thank you, Lena, for bringing such a detailed budget breakdown. I do expect that the fund for children is as concise and as reliable. So thank you for being leadership. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you. There are no more speakers.
Okay, then public comment is closed. Do we have any questions from the council? Go ahead, council members.
I wanted to make a motion. Go ahead.
Oh, quick question. Thank you for the presentation. We all heard this presentation before in closed session, which is why we might not have a lot of questions. But just some that come to mind. The loan will be repaid, and that's both the 10 million and the 2 million?
Well, it would be a total of 10.3 million. Now it's paid through residual receipts, which means that the home key amount is a forgivable loans because that's a grant that we got us from the state, but the city's money is residual receipts, but it's highly unlikely that the full amount will ever be paid because a lot of these projects are not high revenue generating because they're subsidized units. So the idea is that the funding is being provided by the Affordable Housing Nexus fee. So as money is repaid, it gets put back into that special fund, which then will go towards other future projects. But this is the way we subsidize, affordable developments.
Thank you. So, and then to back into that there, the timeline to be repaid, there's no real timeline. It might just be one day, someday, maybe?
They have up to, it's the residual receipt. So once the lease term expires in 55 years, the asset comes back to the city, right? So we will own the housing development and we can repurpose, put it out, get another operator. But so the goal is that we now have this enhanced asset that is going to be providing affordable housing.
So but the loan.
The loan, we will get a portion of it paid, but it's likely not the full amount.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. No other questions. Thank you.
Councilmember Brown.
Thank you, Ms. Lena. Just a quick question about I know you said we may come into full occupancy by September. I'm wondering, because we know that many individuals who are unhoused often battle with addictions. And so I'm wondering, is there going to be some sort of program structure that requires a sober living environment? Because I would just hate for us to invest all of this money for things to get torn apart.
So the home key, it's a really good question and it's a difficult question in that, we are required to have a housing first approach to the housing where we will offer on-site services, including, CalAIM, making sure people get connected to both mental health services as well as any addiction services that they may need. But we can't, the state will prohibit us, and the money is tied where we look at housing first as the first issue we resolve, and then we provide services to provide that ongoing. But they do have rules in the sense like you can't consume on site. There'll be restrictions around it, but the goal is to get people clean and sober, and they could lose their housing if they're caught consuming drugs on site. But the big issue is that it's more of the wraparound services that will help provide the support and hopefully get them clean over time.
Okay, so there will be requirements.
There will be requirements, but it doesn't mean that somebody may not still have an addiction when they move in.
Right, but once you come in, there are like stipulations that an occupant must follow in order to maintain their housing.
Their housing,
Okay.
that's correct.
Thank you.
Vice Mayor Robinson?
Hi, thank you for this. I know it's been a difficult project to move along. So just to make sure that I'm understanding this correctly, been along for this ride. This particular project, from my understanding, is targeted specifically at those who are chronically homeless and those who have special challenges like addiction. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yeah. So it was designed to have the wraparound services and to have somebody there 24 hours and to have, it's not just a shelter. It's not just temporary housing for families or whatever. It's actually designed for the purposes of trying to meet the needs of the chronically homeless. Is that correct?
Yes, there's a definition, and we have to work through the continuum of care system to find occupants. So we do have to pull from what we know as the housing queue. So we're working closely with Contra Costa County. We're working on, since the city also has encampment resolution funding, and so these are folks that have been unsheltered, unhoused, and may be temporarily staying in hotels or motels right now that could be good candidates for this site. But the idea is that there are on-site supportive services, and that was one of the big changes we made into the floor plan was we will have office space for the services and an on-site manager's unit, as well as people coming in to provide services regularly.
Right.
Well, daily.
Right. And this is one of the biggest needs that we have in terms of working with folks who are in encampments, chronically homeless, is we actually don't have enough places for them to go, especially places that'll help them transition out with all those supportive services. We have very temporary, a few motel vouchers, a few places where we'll have a grant for a while that will help provide for rent, but doesn't give any other support. And it makes it so that people can find themselves right back out on the street, right?
That's correct.
And this particular project is kind of different and stands alone from those temporary measures because it's a deeper, it's meant to be deeper, providing deeper services, wraparound services, right?
Yes.
So this is more than just units. This is an investment in trying to find more permanent solutions of getting people permanently off the street. And then I just wanted to ask a question about the loan and the funds. So I want to make sure I understand that correctly too. I thought that the loan was coming from, and I might have had this totally wrong, the developer in lieu of funds. Is that right? So if a developer is required to have a certain number of affordable units, but they don't meet that requirement, they can work out an arrangement to pay in lieu of fees. Correct? That's correct.
Yes, that's correct.
Yeah. And so the amount of this money that we're loaning is from that fund, right? And then if the money comes back, it'll go back into that fund. Did I understand that correctly?
Yes. So the 8.3 is a combination right now of in lieu affordable housing nexus fee, because we also collect now from non-residential development. So some commercial development will contribute some funding, but typically it's assessed on market rate housing because they're not providing their affordable units. Now that, because we didn't have the full 8.3 million in hand, the general fund is loaning some amount, but as it's repaid, we'll pay back the general fund. In addition, the 2 million that we're asking for, we are holding under the housing division. some funds that have been repaid back from old successor agency loans, and so we'll use 2 million from that fund, because we don't want to borrow more from the general fund, and the housing in lieu fee doesn't.
Do we know exactly how much of the general fund that we're loaning from?
We haven't had to tap into the general fund yet, because, like I noted earlier in the presentation, a portion of the funding is in operations, and so we're not going to spend down those funds until we start operating the facility. And certainly our desire is to use our grant funds first and then as needed. So we may not need some of that funding until year 4 or 5 of operations. So hopefully by then we'll have replenished the fund and may never need to actually borrow.
Right, right, great. So this looks to me as a project that's aimed at trying to provide a solution for one of our most difficult problems that we face in the city, and that is not having adequate wraparound services and transitional housing for those who are chronically homeless. We actually need like many, many more home keys if this is going to be a successful project. It's the pilots, we'll try to figure it out. But it seems like we're making an investment in more permanent solutions for people who are unhoused. Do I have that correct? That's the aim.
Yes, this is permanent supportive housing. So for the 55 years, there's a regulatory agreement. There's a whole process for finding tenants that qualify for this unit. So it's not just important for Richmond, but I think the county continuum of care as a whole.
Right. And it is also, like, kind of final statement here, transitioning a very problematic property, the Formal Hotel, into now a place that's actually going to be, at least it aims to be a place where people are restoring their lives, not destroying them. So I thank you for your work on this.
Thank you.
All right, and I'd like to thank the Vice Mayor for asking such informative statement questions. I think you did the public a service by outlining the actual objectives of this process. So, Councilmember Bada.
Oh, I wanted to make a motion to approve this item.
I second that.
Councilmember Brown,
Yes.
Councilmember Bada,
Yes.
Councilmember Jimenez,
Yes.
Councilmember Wilson,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Robinson,
Yes.
Councilmember Zepeda,
Yes.
and Mayor Martinez.
Yes.
The vote is unanimous.
Thank you.
Our next item is item V6A. That is to adopt a resolution approving grant award recommendations from the Richmond Fund for Children and Youth Oversight Board for calendar year 26-27 to 8 youth-serving nonprofit organizations in a total amount not to exceed $1,217,161 annually, and authorize the city manager or their designees to negotiate and execute grant service agreements with approved grantees. If there's anyone joining us online that would like to speak on this item, please raise your hand.
Good evening, Mayor and members of the City Council. My name is Patrick Seals. I'm the Administrative Chief. Tonight, KCRT, if you could just pull up the few slides I have. Thank you. Tonight, we have we're requesting that you authorize an adoption of a resolution to authorize us to enter into grant service agreements with 8 organizations. In December 3rd of 2024, you all approved 37 organizations to receive the RDCY funds. And subsequent to that award, the city received an installment of revenue of approximately $50 million, and 3% of that is dedicated to the Department of Children and Youth. And as a consequence of that additional revenue, there was a need for us then to basically enter into grant service agreements with additional organizations. Next slide. So these are the organizations that we're proposing that you authorize us to enter into grant service agreements with. During 2024, the organizations applied. They weren't funded in that initial cycle, and as a consequence of the additional revenues, We didn't want to then seek to release another grant agreement. What we did is we just selected those 2 organizations next in line to honor the review and approval of all of our grant reviewers. And so this is in line with Article 15 of the Charter. And so if there are any questions, I'd be happy to address them.
Yeah.
Public first.
Actually, how many more slides do you have? Because I think this is a very complicated issue, and there'll be lots of questions. So I'm asking you, do you think it's better for you to finish the presentation and then for us to ask questions afterward? Okay, let's do questions as we go along, because I have several questions also.
Oh, as we go along, so was that the last slide, or?
Oh, that was the last slide?
Yes, sir.
Oh, okay. Well then, in that case, we'll go to public comment.
We have one online speaker.
The speaker is Claudia Citrion. You may begin. Please unmute yourself and you may begin.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, so again, I have the question. I understand it is supposed to go to nonprofits. Now, there are schools involved. Since when are schools allowed in this funding cycle? And the second question that I'm having, I had quite an unfriendly conversation with Mr. Patrick, because I was like, well, the council has questions. And he was like, well, if you don't have any questions, there's no reason to pull it. And I said, well, members of the community have questions. Well, what are their questions? I said, I don't know their questions. So in the meantime, on a social media platform, Arthur Rintella brought up the same question. Why is this going to schools? This is school funding. So I am curious what the council's question is. This is why I pulled it. I also wanted the budget to be more specific. What goes to salaries? What goes to rent? And what goes actually to material? I mean, that is a standard budget presentation and not just 20,000 there and 80,000 there. That is just not sufficient for you to approve. So first, if schools are not in the initial vote how it's supposed to be spent, you need to discuss that. It needs to be voted, and then this proposal needs to come back to be voted on. And secondly, if it indeed was allowed in the initial proposal, then it needs to come back with a more specific breakdown. That is what you requested when you presented last time, that it was just a fluff ball budgeting. That is just not acceptable for so much money. That's all I have to say.
Thank you. There are no more speakers.
All right, Councilmember Cepeda.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you for the presentation, Patrick. I have a couple of questions. I couldn't see, excuse me, I might have missed it, but I cannot see the applications to drill down a little bit further. I'm trying to just figure out on the agenda report, there's actually, I think your last slide as well, has the list of the organizations that we're potentially going to be funding, and 2 of them, Seneca Family of Agencies and Oakland Technology and Education Center, they're not located in Richmond.
Correct.
So I was trying to find the connection back to Richmond.
So they provide services in Richmond schools. So the Oakland Technologies is going to be supporting 170 children at Lincoln Elementary School to promote literacy. And so what their program is they're going to support comic books to promote literacy. So they're going to allow the kids to develop their own comics so that they actually not only enjoy the process, but increase their literacy. The Seneca family of agencies provides mental health support services to thousands of Richmond young people across at least 4 or 5 schools in the district. And so although the headquarters of these organizations is located outside of the city, the program services are provided within the city. And I also want to call out, just for everyone's attention, when the charter was adopted, Article 15 of the charter was adopted, the language that was entered into that charter said for programs that are not only in Richmond, but those in proximity to Richmond. The writers of the measure could have very well have limited to only Richmond. They chose not to. And so as a consequence, we have to extend, and our radius is approximately 15 miles to the city hall. That's typically the radius that we do. And those organizations, although have headquarters, Seneca Family of Agencies has been supporting elementary schools here in Richmond for probably a decade now with mental health supports and services to thousands of kids every year.
Thank you for that. The other question is in regards to counting from our last presentation a couple months ago, a couple of weeks ago, where you were giving an update on Children's First.
Yes.
So you mentioned some numbers here for, I believe it was the Oakland Technology Center, about doing about 70?
170.
170, thank you. Are those going to be unique? Are we going to be able to recount them if they go get other services?
So that's a great point. No. I appreciate the conversation. So just as an update for the council and also for the community, our consultants now are starting from 2025, so a year ago. They will be coming back within a couple of months to provide you an annual report of all the services provided in 2025. Those counts will be unique, identified young people. Additionally, they are going to be conducting audits, which is they're going to visit every organization, in addition to us as staff, to confirm their processing, the technology that they use, so that they are counting Richmond residents. And we are also going to be in contract with Badawi and Associates, the city's auditor, to move forward with auditing specifically the Department of Children and Youth and the Richmond Fund for Children and Youth. And so I just want to share that information.
Thank you. So there is a mechanism then to confirm that they are Richmond residents?
Yes. Okay. The mechanism will be is that our evaluators will go sit with the organizations. They will have to pull up their systems. They will have to show records that confirm that the counts match the number of residents.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. No further questions at this moment. Thank you.
I have a couple of questions. So there's organizations that service more than Richmond residents, correct?
True.
So my question is, how is the money that comes to Richmond residents calculated?
So it'll be a percentage. So hypothetically, let's say there are, in one of the examples, let's say that a organization is servicing a school, because that was the example. And I'd also just like to say for the record that schools are not prohibited from applying. The charter specifically calls out that schools are eligible applicants for this as long as they apply in partnership with local nonprofits. And all of the schools that have received grants or are eligible for grants, we can confirm that they have applied in partnership. So hypothetically, if there are organizations that are serving, hypothetically, because we sit next to San Pablo as an example. So if there was a program that was servicing Richmond and San Pablo, right? 70% are Richmond, 30% are San Pablo, right? What we do is we meet with them and figure out what their programmatic costs are, and they get 70% of what that programmatic cost is because 70% of their participants are Richmond residents, and 30% in this hypothetical would be San Pablo residents or El Cerrito residents.
Okay, but let's say the organization has a certain amount of money. They don't get the grant. How is the money distributed then? Is it by percentage or how?
I'm not sure if I understand the question.
Okay, let's say I'm an organization and I serve people from Berkeley to Hercules, and so I apply for the grant. I don't get the grant.
Okay.
Okay, so my budget is set. So before I mean, if I don't get the grant, is it still done by percentage or is it done otherwise?
So if you don't get the award, you wouldn't be receiving any of the dollars.
Yeah,
I'm
I
just
know, but I'm just asking, okay, I'm an organization, how do I distribute the funds I have? Is it by percentage or what mechanism do I use?
so that would be left up to you, right? But so if
It would also depend on the funding sources that they have received. So there could be restrictions on those funding sources. Some
absolutely.
may require percentage, some may specific dollar amount. It does depend on the dollars that are received by those organizations.
And I just thank you.
Well,
Go
go ahead.
And it could also be, so there are a few scenarios. So if you're an organization, and let's just make it simple, 50% of the young people you serve are Richmond and 50% are not Richmond, right? You receive our award. You are a teacher, a former teacher, right? Let's say you're doing tutoring services and you have 100 young people a part of your program. We pay 50% of your salary. Let's say that you're going to do supplies. Your supply budget is $10,000. We'll pay 50% of your supply budget. And so it is linked to the number of young people that you serve.
I understand that. What I'm trying to point out is that if let's talk numbers. Okay, so let's say I don't get a grant. Who pays for the other 50%?
You might not perform the program. So if you don't receive the award, so you apply for a grant that says, hey, I want to serve 1,000 kids, and this is what I need to serve 1,000 kids, right? I need 5 teachers, I need this amount of supplies, I need these things. If you don't receive the funding, the program as it's been submitted to us won't take place, which is why our nonprofits are so in need of the dollars that we provide. And so if you don't receive the funding, typically the numbers that you would serve, given that you have the funding, might decrease, or it could very well be that those organizations are applying for multiple grants at the same time. So they have a cachet of grant opportunities that might be available to them. So they're not only they don't have all their eggs in one basket. And as a requirement, organizations can't apply for more than 40% of their budget. So we won't allow organizations, right, to be in a position where they're relying solely on us, because when you do that, it impacts sustainability. So hypothetically, if an organization were to receive 100% of funding from the Richmond Fund for Children and Youth and their program, and then they don't receive funding in subsequent years, that program goes away. So we have great programming for young people, and then it goes away in subsequent years. So we try to limit the awards that we provide so that we encourage organizations to develop sustainable practices around fund management and fund development.
Okay. I don't think I'm getting myself understood. If I apply for a grant and 12% of my grant goes to Richmond students, but so the rest of the grant goes to other students? I'm not quite understanding what you're...
So typically we'll ask the percentage of young people that are served by your organization that are Richmond residents. And we typically have a threshold, just generally, of between 50 and 80% is what we require. So if your organization were serving 12%, it may be unlikely that you would receive funding.
Okay, well, what my concern is that Richmond taxpayer money ends up funding students from other areas.
No, I can understand that concern, Mayor, and I appreciate you for voicing it. I will say this, that we definitely heard from the council and the members of the public regarding this, and we are building in systems to build and increase the trust and confidence in the council as well as the public regarding that these dollars are going to the places and to the young people in the services that it's intended. I feel confident that the organizations that we serve are operating in integrity and fidelity to serving Richmond residents. I will stop there.
Okay, yeah. Well, I wouldn't expect you to say anything less. And then one other thing, in terms of doing grants, you
Yes,
know,
sir.
some organizations like Aspire are fantastic at filing for grants, and so they get a lot of money
Yes, sir.
from grants. Other organizations aren't so good, and what can we do to make sure that these lesser organizations get funding? I went to the East Bay Center for the Performing Arts Performance Day.
Yes, sir.
And I listened to the bands from our middle schools and our high schools, and I could see the improvement from the middle school bands to the high school bands. And you know, when I heard the high school bands, I heard what the middle school bands will sound like when they get there. You know, it's truly amazing. So how can we ensure that those sorts of organizations can get some of these funds?
This is a great question. So now you're getting me excited. So, because I love to talk about this type of stuff. So, one of the things that we are trying to do right now, and we're piloting, is we are beginning a technical assistance component. Mayor, we recognize that grant applications for a lot of people can feel onerous, and at the application process and the knowledge necessary to complete grant applications is a skill, and as a consequence can be a barrier. We all understand the systemic issues that many people face with gaining entrance to places that they have historically not been allowed into. And so what technical assistance, we're starting this now for our grant cycle, is we're going to provide up to 2 hours of grant writing support one-on-one with a grant writer to allow this. Additionally, we're going to try to we're piloting this, but our goal is to allow or to set up that system for all of the grants, the art grant, any grant that the city would open, we want to allow technical assistance. Next year, we're going to also establish, next fiscal year, next fiscal year, we're going to start some capacity building. We also have some ideas around, with our participatory grant process, we've met with 17 local nonprofits, and we also have met with our larger service provider working group, which includes 50 plus local nonprofits, and we've hosted them this last week. And they basically gave us ideas, which we're piloting now in our participatory structure. And their recommendation is, hey, how do you divide up the budget system? So instead of it being a 50% line, hypothetically, an organization is small and emerging, and that's $250,000, and then organizations over that all compete in a large pot. Their recommendation is there a possibility that you can stratify that budgeting because somebody goes from $250,000 annually to $350,000 or $450,000? Could we stratify it so organizations of like size are competing against one another? And so we're trying to incorporate an equity lens, and that is one of the things that we're trying to do. Also trying to simplify the application process is another opportunity. And so there are some things that we're activating right now. And the first one right now is the technical assistance piece. And that is available to local organizations, and folks are signing up for that and participating.
That sounds fantastic. Councilmember Jimenez.
Thank you for the presentation. I just wanted to clarify something. So in the one of the requirements is that nonprofits has to be partnered with either city staff or city departments or schools to be able to apply for that. So I heard from some of the comments that why a school? So can you clarify that? And my second question is, I know like the application process, I can imagine part of that is a budget, a detailed budget.
Yes.
So I wonder if you can provide that information in next time so people know
Sure.
this is the budget that is required for more information.
No, that's a great point, and I just will clarify. The process that we go through to finalize these grant service agreements is a little intense. And so the reason that I can't, to the speaker or the residents' concern, how much money is going to staff? How much money is going to supplies? How much? The truth is that we don't know, right? So once we approve the award, what we do is we actually sit down with the organization and say, okay, you've been awarded $50,000 hypothetically. It's going to serve Richmond young people. How is it that you want to divide this money up, right? Because the truth is that between the application and the time that they get the award, they could have gotten other awards. So they might have said, hey, I want staff, but they got a grant now for staff. And they'll be like, oh, what we needed is for supplies. Oh, guess what? We need a contractor that's going to come in and teach our kids 1, 2, 3, and 4. And so the action that we have before you is to say, hey, if the city council would allow and approve this moving forward with these grant service agreements, then what we do is we sit down with the organizations and say, okay, let's have a conversation about where monetarily how you want to allocate your budget based on what your needs are at this very moment. And so that's a point I think that I want to make. Also, with regards to schools, the charter calls out that there are some organizations that are ineligible to apply. Police, any type of public safety are ineligible to apply. Government agencies and the school district are eligible to apply in partnership with a nonprofit, a local nonprofit. So they need, if they're a public agency in any form, they need to have been in conversation and discourse with a local nonprofit to then submit an application.
Thank you.
Vice Mayor Robinson?
So I just wanted to clarify one thing you just said, because I want to make sure that people don't go running off in the wrong directions with it. When you said you don't know what their budget is.
Oh.
You do actually know what their budget is. Because when people apply, a part of the application is a line item budget, correct? And so the difference is that when they get awarded, then you go back to that line item budget and you make sure that that line item budget is still true, because it's been months later, and that if there are any changes that need to be made, that you make those changes, and then it becomes a contract.
Yes, ma'am.
And then people have to fulfill, once the agreement is made on what exact amounts go to what exact line items, then that is contractually, that's the only things they could spend money on.
You are correct.
But whenever somebody submits an application for these grants, they must submit a line item budget. You do have an idea of what they would like to spend it on. It's just that between the time that somebody submits that thing and the time that it's actually time to do that thing, it's many, many months, and things may have changed because, nonprofits apply for lots of grants because you have to make a patchwork of funding in order to make a program go. So I just wanted to make sure that was clear.
You are correct. Thank you.
That could have gone all up in the wrong directions, and people will be like, "Oh my God, they don't know anything."
I appreciate your clarification.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yes, Councilmember Cepeda.
Thank you. One other question, sorry. The amount, it says additional revenues, and I'm trying to figure out, is that from the Chevron stuff, or where's the 1.5 from?
That is. So $50 million was deposited into the general fund revenue accounts in July of 25. The awards were made in December of 24. And consequently, we went to the Richmond Oversight Board. 3% of that $50 million is actually $1.5 million. 85% of that goes to grants. 10% of that goes to administration to pay the department staff, and 5% pays our evaluators to do the work.
So that's just to confirm, that is just the first 50 that was received last year. The 50 that's coming this year is not here yet. It's going to be coming to us at the budget session. That's in the charter that says we are to approve it during the budget session.
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you.
The next 50 that comes to us in July, will we be appropriating it during the next budget session, or when will the next 50 be appropriated?
So we won't be appropriating 50 million. We'll
No, I
be
know,
appropriating
sorry,
1
the
point.
percentage for the
Oh,
50. So
okay.
the 1 point, whatever the math is, but for the next 50 that we're getting, right, the 3% of that, when are we appropriating those next funds?
This action so the organizations that are before you now will receive the award for 2 years, right? So in 24, you awarded 3-year grant terms to that
So we're
first.
assuming that we're getting that 50 this next July.
If
the
we
following
receive it,
July.
yes, sir.
Okay, so that's with the caveat that
You
we're
are correct.
assuming Chevron will continue paying us.
You are
as
correct.
they promised. Okay, just
You are
want to
correct.
make sure.
No.
That, okay, we're not appropriating other funding.
Yes.
All right, perfect. I think no other questions for now then. Thank you.
All right, if there's no other questions, I need a motion.
I move the item.
I second it.
Okay.
Councilmember Brown,
Yes.
Councilmember Bada,
Yes.
Councilmember Jimenez,
Sí.
Councilmember Wilson,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Robinson,
Yes.
Councilmember Zepeda,
Yes.
and Mayor Martinez.
Aye.
The vote is unanimous.
Thank you.
Our next item is item V7D. And that is to adopt a resolution opposing unauthorized United States military intervention in Venezuela, affirming the City of Richmond's commitment to peace, human rights, constitutional governance, and the prioritization of public resources for local community needs. We have 2 in-person speakers, and if there's anyone joining us online that would like to address the council on this item, please raise your hand at this time.
I'd like to begin by saying that with the recent actions of our current president, our world is much more unstable, and some of these actions are creating situations that are untenable. We have recent unauthorized U.S. military actions in Venezuela that raises serious concerns about the misuse of public resources, violation of international law, and the human cost of foreign military intervention. These actions directly matter to the City of Richmond because federal funds used for overseas conflicts are diverted from local priorities such as housing, public safety, infrastructure, and social services, while global instability contributes to humanitarian displacement that affects communities like ours. And when this displacement also creates more injustices in the form of ICE, it complicates things beyond inaction. So something needs to be done. So we are asking the City Council to consider whether we should formally oppose the actions against Venezuela, reaffirm our commitments to peace, human rights, and prioritize the needs of our residents. So I'll let you go to public speakers. Okay.
We have 2 in-person speakers, Mark Wassberg and Juan Reardon. You'll both have 2 minutes to address the council. Mark Wassberg.
Trump did the great thing by blowing up these drug dealers. They're out there poisoning the world. They want to kill everybody. Trump did the right thing by arresting the president of Venezuela. He was dealing with the drug cartel. He was bad-mouthing Trump, so Trump took care of it. And now he will never get out of prison. Him and his wife are there forever. You talk about peace, you was out there promoting hate and violence and murder when you wore that hat, kill the people of Israel. You had a big smile on your face. You was supporting Hamas. You said you wanted to be with Hamas. And then you blame Israel for that terrorist attack in Australia. Then you talk about human rights and peace? And you have the nerve to talk about this? It's already over. There's nothing you can do. You're the one that was out there violating people's rights. standing up for Hamas when they was burning babies in ovens. And you say, oh, gee, I'm so sorry. You ain't sorry for nothing. You're just full of hate. That's all you are. And I guarantee you, when it comes election time comes around, I said, it's going to look real bad. Because you're out there preaching hate and violence, human rights and peace. You're going to tell me you're supporting Hamas? You talk about peace? I said, you people, you guys are sick in your head. I said, Trump did the right thing by getting rid of these drug dealers. And now all the other drug dealers in Central America are running scared because they know they're going to get blown up too. I mean, you're just a hypocrite. You're over there supporting people killing people, and you had a big smile on your face? Dude, you're one sick guy, man.
Juan Reardon.
Good evening, Juan Reardon, Richmond resident. I want to thank the Mayor Martinez and Vice Mayor Robinson for leading this initiative to condemn the unlawful U.S. military attack on Venezuela, the killings of more than 100 persons, and the kidnappings of the Venezuela President Nicolás Maduro and his First Lady Celia Flores. These attacks are not only serious crimes against Venezuela, they are also serious crimes against the Constitution of the United States and the world. Richmond needs to stand again with honor to oppose these crimes and to demand rectification. There are thousands of Latin American families residing in Richmond and thousands of families whose roots are elsewhere in the world. They're here, we are here, building a better Richmond every year, year after year, and we seriously appreciate your respect for our countries of origin and their sovereignty. As Richmond said before, a better world is possible, and we repeat, hands off Iran, free Palestine, end the blockade of Cuba, and hands off Venezuela, and immediate freedom to the kidnapped Venezuelan President Nicolás Maduro and his First Lady Celia Flores, and of freedom also for all the prisoners of these imperial wars. Please vote in favor of this honorable resolution. Thank you.
That was our last in-person speaker. Now we'll move to the online speakers. We have 3 speakers.
The speakers are Claudia Citrion, Tarnell Abbott, and Elsa Stevenson. You will have up to 2 minutes to address the council. Claudia, you may begin.
So how difficult was it really to just present it to the council, Mr. Mayor? I pulled it simply for procedural process. You cannot go use a legislative power which you do not have to put things on the consent calendar because you discussed it behind closed doors. It deserves a public conversation. As you saw, it is a valuable conversation. It is 8 o'clock. You are not losing your sleep tonight. I am urging you in future to understand what new business is, treat it as new business, so I don't have to spend hours chasing everyone down. And by the way, I did not receive a response from your office when I called in 3 times, which is just poor communication again. So again, how difficult was it to present it? I hope you have a chance to answer it tonight. I yield my time.
Thank you. The next speaker is Tarnell Abbott. Tarnell, you may begin.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor and City Council members, for bringing this forward. This country has become rogue, and among the many things that we've done lately that are rogue include what we did in Venezuela. and it's an embarrassment to us as citizens of the world that our government has decided to reenact, you know, a 19th century colonial imposition on Latin America. And it's necessary for all of us to stand up and say, no, we don't accept this. It is an act of piracy to board ships at sea and seize them. And and the US is doing this now with the Venezuelan oil tankers. We are confiscating oil that is not ours. It does belong to the Venezuelan people. And it has implications beyond our little you know, us kidnapping Maduro and his first lady. It's the implications are global, and they are amplified in the Caribbean and in Latin America. Enough is enough. People have the right to the natural resources of their land. They have the right to sovereignty. And you don't like Maduro? Well, that's not, you know, that's up to the people of that country. So hands off Venezuela, hands off Cuba, hands off everywhere. And all these struggles are interrelated. We are all accountable, and we all become victims of this kind of fascism and imperialism. And it just, we have to stand up wherever we can all the time. So thank you so much for bringing it forward. I urge you to adopt this. Thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker is Elsa Stevenson. Elsa, you may begin.
My name is Elsa Stevens, a longtime Richmond resident. I came from Cuba when I was 8 years old. I mean, when I was 6 years old, not 8. Um, Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Vice Mayor. Thank you, Council, for speaking up against so much lawlessness. We must stop North American piracy with absolutely no evidence. Venezuelans were accused of drug smuggling and murdered in our name. And over 100 people were murdered with the U.S. invasion. We don't even know their names. Our government interferes with commerce and humanitarian aid in Latin America. These are United Nations member countries that we're interfering with. All of this piracy in our name must stop. It must not be normalized. I pray that your statement will make a difference. Thank you.
Thank you. And there are no more public speakers.
Any comments from the council? Councilmember Jimenez.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor and Vice Mayor, for bringing this forward. I think it's important for Richmond to be a voice in these matters, even though we are a small city, but we are also telling our community here in Richmond that we hear them, as we did with the resolution for our brothers and sisters from Palestine. We are doing this to say to our community who are born in other countries, like myself from Colombia, that we listen to them and we are here to speak against any injustice in any place. I think U.S. has a history in Latin America and South America doing these kind of things. In Chile, they did it with Salvador Allende and imposed a really terrible, not even government, but a military coup. And it's time for U.S. government to treat South American and Central America at their backyard and treat as we respect the killing of many innocent people in the Caribbean just because they think that they were drug dealers without any proof that that was the truth, has been devastating for many families, even from Colombia and from Venezuela. So I think we use this space to also send this message. Even though we are in a small city, we use the power that we have to send a message that we, at least here locally, we don't stand with this government that is trying to impose barbarity in other countries. And if we don't speak up, then we will have another war and it's not going to be overseas, far away, but it's going to be just next to the borders. So we don't need more war, because work also, what it carries is that people start moving to other countries. And they are coming here, and then here people are just, it creates a migration where people are looking for other opportunities. And then it creates also a big push here for people don't feel comfortable, and people feel like there is no space. So I think if we want to make sure that people are able to stay in their homeland, what U.S. government needs to do is to create the stability that these countries needs, because people are moving because there is no opportunities, not because they really want to move, but there is no opportunities, and they are moving because they feel like here they can find that opportunity. So if U.S. government start really acting as a good neighbor, we will have another different relationship, and it creates a partnership instead of these wars where the rest of the world is looking at U.S. government and the country as their enemy. So thank you.
One of the things that I find disturbing is the blatant imperialistic point of view that our president has taken. I mean, calling Canada our 51st state, saying Greenland will be ours one way or the other, threatening Mexico, isolating Cuba even more so economically, so that the people there will feel like they must rise up in their scenario, threatening Venezuela and bolstering fascist in other Latin American countries with his rhetoric. It's disturbing. And what's also disturbing is using the murder of people on boats as political propaganda. We had means of interdiction of those boats with our Coast Guard. We chose not to do that. We chose to bomb them without even knowing who they are and without being able to prove who they are because of the way they were bombed. That's wrong. That's evil. And we should stand against that. I want to read the now therefore let it be resolved, so that we understand exactly where we stand and what it is we want to ask of our government. Now therefore be it resolved that the City Council of the City of Richmond, California, condemns the U.S. military strikes, occupation, or occupation-like control of Venezuela, the unlawful killings and abductions of Venezuelan nationals, and opposes any U.S. military presence, intervention, or de facto governance of Venezuela. And be it further resolved that the City of Richmond, California, calls for an immediate and unconditional end to any U.S. military occupation or control activities in Venezuela, including the complete withdrawal of U.S. armed forces from Venezuelan territory and internal affairs. And be it further resolved that the City of Richmond, California calls for the immediate release from detention and repatriation of the constitutional president of the Bolivian Republic of Venezuela, Nicolas Maduro, and First Lady Celia Flores. And be it further resolved that the City of Richmond urges the U.S. federal government to end its current strategies and actions against the Bolivian Republic of Venezuela. These policies are causing diplomatic, humanitarian, political, and economic crises, creating regional instability and undermining international law. And be it further resolved that the City of Richmond calls on the U.S. Congress to assert its constitutional authority and require the President to cease all unauthorized military actions against the Bolivian Republic of Venezuela. And be it further resolved that the City of Richmond rejects all attempts by the current federal administration and all others to revive the imperial hemispheric dominance policies known as the Monroe Doctrine and to overrun the sovereignty of the nations of the continent and subjugate them to the will and interests of the United States. And be it further resolved that the city clerk is directed to transmit copies of this resolution to the President of the United States Secretary of State, the United States Secretary of Defense, and I say defense instead of war, the Speaker of the House of Representatives, and the Majority Leader of the Senate and the city's federal representatives. Do I have a motion?
I'll move the item.
I second.
Councilmember Brown?
I abstain.
Councilmember Vana?
Yes.
Councilmember Jimenez?
Yes.
Councilmember Wilson?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Robinson?
Yes.
Councilmember Zepeda?
Yes.
And Mayor Martinez.
Yes.
The motion passes with Councilmember Brown abstaining. Our last item is reports of officers, referrals to staff, and general reports, including AB 1234 reports, limited to 2 minutes per council member.
Vice Mayor Robinson.
Hi. So this was a very busy term. We had the meeting of the Economic Development Commission. In that meeting, lots of plans moving forward for the first sustainability expo for Sustainable Business Expo for the city of Richmond being planned. A Taste of Richmond is coming back this year. There are flyers out for that now. I wish I would have wrote down the date. I'll have it on my website and on my social media so you can find that. You can come and learn about and taste and learn about the restaurants in Richmond and taste some of the offerings here at the Civic Center. They're also putting together a plan to formalize their work a little bit more, and they'll be coming and speaking directly to the council a few times a year, as well as putting together a set of annual report and recommendations around business development and economic development in Richmond. So I felt like it's really a really positive direction for that commission, and it's exciting. We also met with the GEZ, the Green Empowerment Zone, and that project is really moving forward. Lots of work being done internally. We are going to be setting up a Richmond's website for industrial scale green and blue development, so that it'll be a place where people who are interested in looking at Richmond as a place where they could relocate their business, their manufacturing green businesses in Richmond. And hopefully we'll be also setting up the back end so that there'll be people in our economic development department who can help them find places to locate their businesses within our city, so we can bring the kinds of businesses that we want here and really help develop our economy. So there's be a lot more stuff coming with that. There is a Green Empowerment Zone website that's already been created for the whole of Contra Costa County. You should really check that out. Our Richmond website will connect to that website, and soon you'll be able to see resources available on our website that'll show you what kind of commercial parcels are available for people to develop in Richmond. So exciting developments. Also went to the Pullman Neighborhood Council. Really great, energized, energetic meeting. Lots of great developments. The International Hotel is finally being taken care of. There's, lots of developments around the fire at the public storage facility, so that Carlson Boulevard is open again, and lots of things moving forward. So thank you.
Councilmember Bana.
Thank you. I would like to thank our fire chief and OES manager, Richard Diaz, for organizing an evacuation drill in the entire El Sobrante Valley, which includes the city of Richmond and also a part of the city of San Pablo and unincorporated El Sobrante to make sure it's realistic. City and county fire and law enforcement agencies will be involved, and residents are required to register for the drill. The drill is on Saturday, May 30th, and as the district representative from the area, I'm very glad that this is happening because wildfire safety and safe evacuation is one of the main concerns. And also District 2 is partially involved, and residents from District 2 are welcome to register and participate if they're interested. And we hope that the Office of City Manager and everyone in the city helps with educate, because the point of it is not just making sure that all the agencies are coordinated, but also educating the public about community warning system, red flag warning, evacuations, and everything related. And you'll gradually hear about all that until May 30th. Thank you.
Thank you. Want to just thank the Richmond Neighborhood Coordinating Council again for celebrating Black History Month. I know several of us attended. It was a really great event. Last year they did it as well, and every year I learn more and more. And this year, former council member and Mayor Nat Bates shared some really great history about Richmond, and I think you all might have seen the article, but just how long he's been in Richmond and fighting for having a better Richmond, and seeing Richmond change through the time, and really felt honored to have him there still sharing the history and all the great work that people before us have done. So I want to thank everyone who helped out with that. And also just another reminder for the Parchester meeting is this Thursday for anyone that's in Parchester. And I want to thank my colleagues again for helping provide funding to help uplift one of our communities in the most need, which is Parchester Village. The meeting is this Thursday at 7 o'clock at the community center there in Parchester, where they're going to be discussing all the different issues and concerns and see what are the next steps will be, so we can provide either more funding or they can use the funding they currently received to help uplift that community. And uplifting them literally, figuratively, in every single way, because various parts of Parchester are flooding, and they flood all the time, so we're hoping that we can help them out a little bit there. That is it for my notes. Thank you.
I'm sorry, may I make a,
Yes,
sorry,
sure.
I made a mistake and said District 2 could be partially involved. I'm in District 6, that's the district of Councilmember Claudia Jimenez. Thank you for your collaboration.
Yes.
I just want to quickly mention the dates for Taste of Richmond. It's on March 28th, Saturday, March 28th, from 4 to 7 p.m. here at Civic Center Plaza. I think there are going to be over 30 restaurants that are going to come, and they're going to have vendors and artisans at that event this year. And then April 18th is going to be the date of the Sustainability Expo Fair here at Civic Center. Thank you.
Anyone else? If not, I'd like to uplift the East Bay Center for the Performing Arts for allowing all of the middle school and high school students to perform, to show exactly what they're capable of doing. It was a fantastic concert. The musical selections were diverse, and there were some who showed the wide range of percussion. There was someone who had these big kettle drums and also a triangle, and different parts of this of the piece she would be banging on the kettle drums, and then another piece, the same piece, tinkling away rhythmically on the triangle. It was just amazing to watch and even more amazing to hear. I also went to the LEAP graduation ceremony that was on Thursday, and I am so proud that our city is able to sustain the LEAP educational opportunities for people who weren't able to do what needed to be done at the time that it needed to be done, but had the courage to leap forward and continue the work that they had missed formerly. And finally, I want to ask again for people to contribute to the Snowball Scholarship Fund. They need as much money as possible so they can give as big a grant as possible. They'll be giving the grants March 21st, Saturday, and so the sooner they can get the money, the better off the grants will be. Yes?
I don't want to interrupt what you just said, but I want to add something about the East Bay Center.
Oh, okay. Well, then let me finish up. So you can make your donations to the www.Hurlbut Foundation. That's HURLBUTFOUNDATION@.org/snowball, and a hyphen between snow and ball.
So just to add on to what our mayor said about Performance Day, it was truly, I actually went as well, and it was just truly inspiring. And one of the things that I just feel like is really important to make the point is that the East Bay Center offers free performing arts education to hundreds of Richmond's youth, thousands if you consider all of the support they do in our schools. This particular program is funded by the Richmond Fund for Children and Youth. It would not be possible at all to serve all those middle schools and the high school program without that funding. And it's powerful. It's making powerful change. And so I just really wanted to underscore that, you know, there's really great things happening with that fund, including all of those kids being able to have access to arts education in a time when the school district is cutting all of their electives in art education for those age groups.
Amen.
I want to close in memory of G.C. Jackson that passed today at 84. He was a predominant civil rights leader and a founder of the Rainbow Push Coalition. So if we can close in memory of that.
And Councilmember Cepeda also has someone.
Thank you. So no more comments, and then if colleagues and the KCRT, if you wouldn't mind bringing up the slide there really quickly. Colleagues, tonight, if we can also adjourn in the memory of Norma Jean Labont. We have her family here with us as well. She's a longtime Richmond resident with deep East Bay roots. Norma was known for her warmth, her steady presence, and the way she made people feel seen and cared for. She was a proud mother and grandmother, and her family was truly the center of her world. She worked hard throughout her life, including roles with UC Berkeley Extension and later Kaiser in Oakland. She also had a creative spirit. She loved stained glass and ceramics, and she had a real eye for beauty and detail. If you knew her, you probably remember her unique style, especially her magnificent scarves and signature red glasses. I know that I can see her from a mile away, not just because of the red glasses, but her wonderful, friendly smile. Norma loved Richmond, especially South Richmond, and she cared deeply about what was happening locally. She stayed engaged in local activism and community issues, and she supported efforts she believed would strengthen the city and protect its legacy. On behalf of her family and all who loved her, we honor Norma's life and the legacy she leaves behind. May her memory be a blessing. As you see here on the screen, Norma's memorial will be Friday, March 6th from 10 to 1 at the Wilson and Kratzer. And there will also be a live stream for anyone that wants to join in celebrating her life. Thank you all for helping close out tonight's meeting in Norma's memory. She was truly a Richmond treasure. Thank you.
So in honor of the two people mentioned, we adjourn this meeting.
They were telling me, I'm like,